Ty with Ty the Dog Guy on the Daily, and I want to talk to you and burst your bubble. I'm going to talk to you about selective hearing. Now, here's why it might burst your bubble. Because selective hearing in your dog doesn't exist. Well, let me qualify that a little bit. It doesn't exist in the way that you think it exists. Or maybe it rarely does. Anyways, I'm adding a lot of qualifiers, aren't I? Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Selective hearing is what most people call when they say, well, I call my dog and he looks around, he thinks about it, and sometimes he comes, sometimes he doesn't. Or I tell my dog to sit. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. He's just kind of selective about it. Or I tell my dog to stay, and sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. He has selective hearing. And in reality, so what they're thinking is they're thinking that their dog has this complete understanding of the command and only chooses to do it certain times versus other times. And that's just simply not the case. What their dog doesn't have is a complete understanding of the command. What they've actually done is they've taught selective obedience. Let me explain a little bit of what I'm talking about there. I get asked this from time to time. If I'm at, I don't know, something social, which is not too often, but if I'm at something social or I'm chatting with somebody new and they're like, oh, you're a dog trainer, cool. What's like a big mistake that dog owners make? It's a question I get a lot. And overall, I can say, almost, it depends on the day of the week. Sometimes I'll give a different answer, depending on the types of dogs that I've been seeing lately. But overall, the biggest mistake that I see over and over and over again is that people give commands to their dogs. They give expectations to their dogs, but they don't follow up. So they tell the dog to come, and they have no way, let's say they're in the beginning stage of teaching their dog, and they have no way of making sure the dog does come. And so when the dog doesn't come, the dog is rewarded for not coming because the dog got whatever he wanted to get in not coming. Does that make sense? So they said come, and the dog's like, well, it's funner over here. Is funner a word? The dog says, hey, it's more fun over here. They can't back it up, and so the dog's like, cool. It is more fun. It's more fun to not listen to them. Or they said stay, and they had no way of backing it up and making sure the dog actually did it. And so the dog recognizes it's actually more fun to jump on the guest who walks through the door than to stay. And so what the owner is doing is teaching and training the dog that you should only selectively be obedient. So it's not a dog who's saying, I totally get this concept and choose to disobey. It's a dog who's saying, you've only asked me to be obedient when it suits me best. And so that's what I'm going to do. So like I say, there's a difference in tone here because on the one hand, selective listening makes it sound like the dog is making this, kind of bad choice, when the reality is the dog's making the choice that he's been trained to make. My business partner and our training director at our company, Joe, what does he say? He says, no matter what you're doing, you're training. And so if you think you're in a training session or you're not in a training session, it doesn't matter. You're still doing something to train your dog. And when you don't back up what you say and figure out a way to make sure that the dog actually follows through, you're training. You're just training in a very poor way. You're training the dog to only be selectively obedient. And again, there is a difference between him being selectively obedient and selective listening. Selective obedience is something you taught. Selective listening, if it was real, would be something that he was doing or she was doing, your dog. But again, it's not real. It's something that you taught your dog. Sorry, I didn't mean to burst your bubble.